Call to order the City Council Workshop, August 2, 2016. We're going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance because we already pledged. Roll call, Ms. Shuck.
Yes, sir. Mayor Dale Masad.
Here.
Vice Mayor Terrence Rowe.
Here.
Councilwoman Nancy Britton. Here. Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell. Here. Councilman William Dittmer.
Here.
And Interim City Manager Jim Matthew.
Here.
Okay, we have announcements. Anything, Pat? Chief? Okay, general public? Okay. Bring it to the council. Any comments?
I had mentioned to Jim that I appreciated the way he laid out. It made it a lot easier for somebody the first time going through it, and the way you broke it down with the IT and condensed some things. It made it much easier to understand for
Right.
us, so thank you.
And, for that matter, I asked Joe Public probably 2 months ago, and then a month ago, and then 3 weeks ago, if we could put together a little, if you could put together a little primer that we have to do for our continuing education on the Sunshine Law.
Sure. I'd love
So
to
that
do
would
that.
be, yeah, so the people, you would really get something rather than looking on television for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, if you put
I've
that.
already done mine.
You, Terry, you due? Are you due?
I did the online thing and checked it, but
You have to do it every year. Did you do it this year?
not this year yet.
Came on board, so we should be good till next year.
I'm done.
You're done? Oh, I was asking for you guys. Okay, well, it's you and me. I wanted something out of it. I don't want to listen to it.
The one that's online is excellent.
If you have an attention span over 5 minutes.
You broke it up, I did it all.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Review of the FY 2016-17 budget documentation. I'll turn that over to Mr. Matthew.
Do you mind if I go up there?
No.
You're in trouble when I take off the jacket.
Well, but you know, you're not agitated yet. Your hair is perfect.
All right, is this on?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? I'm going to apologize in advance if it sounds like I'm lecturing. Can't help that, to do it a lot. And number two, if I get a little too detailed or something, let me know. One of the charitable things I do is I run a charter school, and it's an unpaid thing, and I have a $3 million budget I did at the same time I was doing this, and I've done it for 7 years, so I actually enjoy this stuff.
Is there a place we should start here?
I'm sorry?
Is there a place in this?
I'll take you through the whole thing. I just want to
Okay.
say a few things first, Mayor, and then I'll take your page pretty much right through with the page numbers. We changed, Jocelyn, you gave them the 2 changes. There was one clerical error we found this morning concerning some capital in the fire department. And then I'd given it some thought, since you all voted to put a boat ramp in, okay, and I was thinking whether I was gonna put that in the next budget, but since you voted for it now, okay, what I did was, I'm gonna put it in the next budget, and I'll tell you how I did that as we go along. So it's already been funded in here, so that boat ramp is funded also. Going forward in terms of your responsibilities here, just so you understand this, this is a formal budget workshop, okay? Now, if you don't decide to make some major changes or anything, what's gonna happen, and correct me on this, Erin, but there's gonna be 2 formal readings of ordinances. You passed the budget by ordinance, and it's done at a special meeting in September. And generally, that, if you've made all your decisions, I'm probably not gonna have another workshop unless you tell me now you want one. And it'll be in an ordinance, and it'll be announced. Normally, there's not much discussion. People will show up that don't even live in the city there because they think, they want to know if your taxes are going up and things like that. So there's questions like that, but there's 2 formal meetings. You have to show up briefly. That they're on Thursdays. I think we've already set the dates out for them. State law requires that we do this. That's what's happening in terms of this. Before I begin, I just want to explain 4 things in case I use terms, and believe me, this is not going to be a lecture, but we had gone through the trouble of preparing a presentation I was going to do earlier, but your agenda was kind of thick the last few weeks. But there's 4 things I just want to explain, because not so much for what we've done in the budget here, but just going forward, because I've heard comments from council. I have a general idea what you want to do. It's a small city. Your budget, your size of the budget is about $10 million, okay? About $5.5 million of that is in the general fund. About $3.5 million of that is in the water department, and a little over $1 million is in the CRA, okay? So if you were a giant city, it couldn't get any more complicated, okay? So that's why it may seem complicated budget, at least it's simpler now, but complicated budget for a small city. Now, there's good things about that and bad things about that, but the most important thing to realize is, well, you know, all the money's in the same place, okay? They're in funds for accounting purposes, okay? I mean, there aren't 3 separate bank accounts. All the money's in the same place. And if you do well in one, it can help you in the other. So the bottom line is, you do well in the water department, it can help the city. You do bad in the water department, you can't just ignore it. It goes away. It's going to hurt the city. The same thing's true of the CRA, okay? Right now, the CRA is helping the city in the sense that it's carrying some of the expenditures of the city, which we can chat about in a minute as I go through this. You have a good feeling about that. That's a good thing if you're in an emergency and you need the money. Now it's been carrying it for a while, and I sense from council you want to kind of wean yourself off of that, which we'll discuss, and I'm going to give you some ideas about how to do that. But even though there's 3 separate budgets, if you save money anywhere, it helps the other 2, okay? Because in the water department, you can make a profit. I can tell you there's a local city around here, and I don't want to get into the names or anything, but you can make up to a 25% profit in your water department. So on $3.5 million, you can make $700,000 or $800,000 and just move it out, put it into your general fund every year. People run cities on water departments. Not that you're going to do that next year, I understand that. There was a time when it was losing money. The council came around and fixed that kind of thing. There was a time years before that when it did make money. So when it's bad over there, it hurts you. When it's good over there, it helps you. So these are all, it's not like just the general fund, okay? The unrestricted reserves. Oh, Mr. Schatzel here, I kind of interrupted him that day. And just so you could understand it, I understood what he was saying, because I do these kind of things. We have reserves in Penny for Pasco. We have reserves in other funds. And by the way, there's one other fund, and it's the stormwater. You can kind of ignore that. It's just some monies we get for our stormwater charge. We get it, we spend it. Penny for Pasco is a separate fund, but as a practical matter, and I'll explain this as we go along, it's part of the general budget because we use it for capital expenditures only. But in the unrestricted reserves, Mr. Schatzel said that, well, like, how much money do you need in the bank? Unrestricted reserves means how much money do you have in the bank, okay? And we have about a $5 million general fund, and so you look at the expenses, the balanced budget. So the expenses of $5 million, what's 25% of that? It's about $1.25 million. That's pretty much what we have right now. Okay, that's what we have for emergencies going forward. It's like, you know, in case you have a problem. Generally, I personally feel, on the one hand, you know, that could be somewhat of a low figure because we have a water department here that all of a sudden could need $2 million. Do you understand what I mean? So. On the other hand, you know, it may be the right amount the right amount, but after doing the numbers and seeing what we had and some other things I'll discuss, I think it is about the right amount. In the last 3 budgets, you were cutting down on that. It used to be $3-4 million. Okay, so I can tell you that this budget here, if there was a pendulum swinging somewhere, we stopped it. Okay, now it's swinging the other way, and I'll explain to you why and the things that have been done. Deficit spending, I think everybody knows what that is. That's what we've been doing in a few years. The last thing I want to explain is recurring expenditures and one-time expenditures. Put a recurring expense in there. Bodies are recurring expenses, right? Unless you get rid of the body, you have that expense each year. One-time expenditures, it's there. You pay it this year, next year you have that money again. Okay, so when I use these terms, and especially planning going forward, you want to give some thought to all that. Looking at the specifics of this, okay, this budget is the exact same millage rate, it's the rollback rate. The last year it was 5.766%, this millage rate is 5.755, okay? So we're raising no more money than you did last year, there's no millage rate increase, taxes stay the same, okay? So
Okay, Jim?
generally your constituents like that kind of thing, yes. Doug?
Without interrupting you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we're using the CRA for recurring expenditures, which we're trying to get away from.
Yes.
We have actually, if we were not using the CRA, our millage rate would be about 8.76. It'd add 3 mills to the taxes in the city. And so what we did with the CRA is we expanded government.
Yes.
Government's job is to grow government. And that's all, just so you guys get why I want us off the CRA. It is for community redevelopment, not for salaries, et cetera. I'm sorry.
So no, please ask me questions in the middle, I believe it makes it easier. Yeah, so the bottom line is, are you raising taxes? No, we're going with the rollback rate. It's a slightly lower millage rate than last year. Does that mean you lower taxes? No, it doesn't, because property values went up slightly in Port Ritchie. And I'm following this overview, and just to give you a bigger picture here, you'll see that in this budget is $10,051,000. It's slightly higher due to the change we just put in today. So it's about $10 million, slightly over $10 million. Last year's budget was $10,500,000, and the year before was $10,900,000. So it looks like it's dropping $500,000 a year. Just so you understand this, that doesn't mean anything. Your budget has to be balanced. Okay, the expenditures are always going to equal the amount of money you're bringing in. Okay, so even I would hope these numbers are $20 million. Doesn't mean you're expanding government, but we got more money coming in. Understand what I mean? So you never want to look at the size of the budget. You want to look at how much money you got to have in reserves, what's your tax rate, because if you start getting grants and everything, it increases these figures. So the actual overall size of it shouldn't offend you in any way, although a lot of people look at that. Just so you know, in terms of this pendulum I discussed, last year was the third year of deficit spending, except $700,000 was taken out of the unrestricted reserves. That's probably the most important thing I'm telling you today. $700,000 was taken out of the unrestricted reserves, same as the year before, and $400,000 2 years before that, except that the red light camera revenue was higher than expected, and that was done conservatively, which is good. I believe Mr. Schatzel stood here about a month and a half ago, and told you that of that $700,000, we've only dipped into $78,000 or whatever, and it's still climbing. Crunch some of those numbers, it's probably going to be at $650,000 we're going to have left over, but it's more likely $550. Okay, it's going to be a lower figure, so I'm using this conservative figure of $550. What we've done here is, what's going to happen is, in this budget, you'll see in the revenue section $314,000. You're going to say, Jim, you took $314,000 out of reserves to make this happen instead of $700,000. And I said, yes, but when that $550 goes in, so in a moment in time, probably 3-4 months from now, Mr. Schatzel's going to be here and saying, well, your reserves are now $980, but it's going to increase by $550, if not more, when the auditors come. Okay, and by the way, before I forget, one of the first things I'm going to tell your new city manager is you cannot use your same auditor anymore. It can only be used for, I think, 2 years and 1 extra year, or 3 plus 1 extra. You're at that point, so an RFP has to go out immediately for a new auditor. That'll come up fast. They do it in November, so it's going to be no more job for the new person there. Now, with regard to this 314, I'm going to talk a little more about that, what we did here. Let me explain what we did here. When I first came on here, we were about 70% through the budget. Okay, it was 90 days ago. We started working on the budget about 83%. Is that the magic number when we sat down that first day? Wanted to blow our brains out. The good part is, and I'm trying to explain a few things so you know them going forward, because I know there's some changes you want to make and give you ways to do this. I don't approve any expenditures, you understand? I'm a hard-nosed guy. We ain't spending money on anything. The city has a very good way of, you want to spend money up to 2,500, up to 10. The paperwork on that's very good. And I'm not spending on anything. I'm stopping all spending. And staff knows it. You understand me? Staff knows that.
Little,
And they're working with me.
anecdotal thing.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I asked for a pen the other day. I think Jocelyn gave it to me, but give it back. He's cut our office.
Well, that's line item 582. We'll show you that
Have fun.
Doc, when we get there. So, this, and by doing that, I can look at what expenditures are going on and things like that. So what we did was this. Zero-based budgeting, is that what it's called? Okay. He's an expert on this kind of stuff. You might read in the newspaper about zero-based budgeting. Everybody know what that is? It's where each year you take a budget, and that's what generally happens. You go to all the, department heads and say, give me your next year's budget. Okay, this is what it was this year, and they come in and give you this. And then you go back to them, or you go back to them and present it. No, go back and you cut it. It's a game. Okay? Zero-based budgeting is, forget about that. We're not gonna do that. We didn't do that. I don't care about any of that. They came in with their budgets, and I told them what we were gonna do. So they came in with very, very, very lean budgets, and I commend all the department heads for that. And they really did. I know what's good and what's not good and who's jerking me around. So what we did was, we did every single line item in the budget. Why is it there? We start fresh. Zero-based budgeting is you start with a new budget each year, right from scratch. So what we did was, it was 83% through the year, and the computer will tell us, it's 83% through the year, what percentage has been spent in that line item. Well, if they, being in any department, has spent 62% and I'm 83% of the year, they obviously didn't need 83%. So we question them. Maybe there's something that just comes up in the last 2 months of the year. So we did that with every single line item. If it was more spent more, are they gonna go over the end of the budget? And we went through that and discussed it with each person and went right down the line, okay? And that's how we took the fat out of it. Be able to do the things I'm going to tell you we did in here as we go forward. So we did that. I recommend you do that each year, as a matter of fact. Some of the things I did, just to show you that, and remember, I'm drawing $300,000 out, but the Penny for Pasco Fund is money you can use for capital expenditures, cars, boat ramps, things, okay? And the property over at Alex's, across from the fire station, okay, you spend about $2,500 interest on that. We have a loan there. Okay, so in this budget, you're paying that off, $100,000, $95,800. You're paying it this year. So what that means is, the big deal isn't that next year you're going to save $2,500 in interest. That don't mean anything. You got $100,000 extra to spend next year. It's not a recurring expense.
The principal plus.
So really, it's not 337, you're gonna come out of the box next year with 227, okay? So I kind of tied your hands on that. And there's some other things along that. And just so you understand what's in here is, you will notice in the budget that normally capital expenditures, we're using Penny for Pasco, which has about $435,000 in it. Okay, and normally that would be in this budget for like cars. I didn't put it in there. I left the contingencies in there to be spent if members of the various departments want to spend it. They'll go to the city manager, and they're going to have to come to the city council to expend the money. You understand what I mean? So I didn't put any cars in there. And I know Pat needs some cars. He's going to be coming. Okay. It's one thing when you put something in there, like this is for 2 cars, and then I make the decision, but when you're trying to cut money, I just assume they came to you. You have a city manager here that you're gonna hire, and you wanna look at each expenditure during the course of the year, okay? So I set it up that way. I didn't put any capital expenditures in here. I left it as an open item contingencies for you to spend. If you don't spend it, you have another $100,000 at the end of the year. You understand what I mean? So you're probably going to do that with about another 100. So you're almost doing this budget with no money out of reserves. You're going to have 550 going the other way. The CRA, I cleaned that up. And this is set up, as you know, beginning of it is revenue. You go to the CRA, you go to the second half here and go to expenditures. And let's just look at that for a second.
What page is he, right,
I'm
Jim?
going to tell you that in a second. I should have put the page numbers here. What is it? I'm sorry? What's page? 38. 38? 38.
Mine, that's not right.
Yeah, it's not, my pages are all messed up, too. The
Page
divisions
41.
of the pages.
41?
Didn't change.
Try 41.
41.
41?
There we go. You want to swear in that?
Yeah, right here, the expenditures for the Community Development Agency, okay? Now, this is what you're talking about, okay? The first one is, at City Council, you get paid out of the CRA, you gotta like that, right? Administrative is people in this building. Finance, people in this building. Legal is a portion of the city attorney, it's always been there. IT, now look at the, just so you can follow this, you see page 42 across the top? Let me just show you how this works. You see where it says 2012 to 13 in the first column? Do you see that? Okay, then 213 to 14, does everybody see that?
Got it.
Okay, now go to the right where it says proposed budget 2016 to 17. That's what we're talking about now, right? This is what I'm proposing to you is column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Column 5 is the current budget you're working under. Now, you see all the zeros going down? See them all? That means you're not putting anything in IT. So for the last 5 years, you've been putting money into IT and carrying $15,000, $25,000, $40,000 in IT. Now, we've taken that out. You understand what I mean? The CRA is no longer carrying the IT department. That's why all those zeros are there.
Jim, 2013, 14.
What about?
Well, I'm just going to point out, we spent $73,000 on personnel in IT.
No, Dale, we probably spent a lot more than that. We spent about $270,000 in the IT department last year. And I'll get into that detail in a
Well,
second.
excellent.
General government, that's a generator, which I want to talk about last. I have some figures on that. It's another thing I want to tell the new city manager has to be done. The police department, we have some officers there. You have the fire department on the next page, you have some officers there. See, in the building department, okay, we have some $207,000 there. Water department, now, no, take it back, now go to the water department on the next page, page 44, do you see it? Now look for 2016 to 17 proposed budget. There's all zeros going on because this has come out, you see zeros to the left, this has been drawn out of there for the last few years. The water department's become self-sufficient somewhat. And you're gonna say, well, Jim, if it's all zeros, why are you putting it here? Because as long as there was $1 spent in 2012, this program gives it to you as a highlight. So, bottom line, with the community development grant, and when you go to the next page, the grants are an expense because you're gonna spend that. That's the Restore Act money there. The Public Works Department is there for $59,000 and then $45,000.
How is this Restore Act money broken down and where is it?
The Restore Act is, that's what was in the budget this year, $75,000, because it's gonna be matched as we spend it. The city just hasn't gotten the interlocal or the go-ahead from the county to proceed with the Restore Act
Right.
project, so you need some seed money there to spend first before you get money back, okay?
This is our money that will be going in
Yes,
against the
and hopefully getting
335,000.
back, yeah, but I gotta show it, because you're gonna need to write
Oh.
that check. And as you can see, go down to page 46. Okay, do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
All right. Now go down to the 2015-16 current budget. Do you see that? That's the fifth column, right? Do you see that?
Well,
You're on page 46? See the fifth column? Okay, go all the way down to, that's the current budget we're working on. You see contingencies, which is line 990, if you look to the left. Do you see it there? See contingencies, the line item?
Oh,
You know,
okay,
to the left, you don't see that?
got it.
See, this is the budgets, and this is what it is. Down here is contingencies, total contingencies, line 990, right? Does everybody see that?
I do.
Okay. Last year, you had 18, contingencies means something comes up, it's like money for you to spend, fancy word to say it. Now, normally, you could sit here and put things in, okay, and when you hold your first CRA budget, you may want to put things in, but right now, it's up to you to spend whatever you want on that. Now, you'll see last year, it's $18,116. Do you see that? That was how much money you had to spend. This year, it's $358,620. Okay? So it's a slight increase, right? We're trying to wean ourselves away from it, Doc, doing the best I can here.
You are.
Goals to make that $1.2 million, I understand that. So you got $358,000 in this budget, which is more thanks to the people here and the people here that got slim budgets than me, okay? So this budget has $358,000 more dollars in it, okay, to spend any way you want. I'm gonna go through a few other things here. Talked about the Restore Act there. Okay, let's talk about this IT budget. You're gonna say, where did the money come from? Let me tell you about this IT. When I came here, I'd say kind of a stroke of luck, 95 days ago, the gentleman who we paid in IT, a good amount of money, close to what you pay the city manager, had left,
This-
okay? And there was,
We in Penny for Pasco? Where are we now? I'm sorry.
I'm not anywhere, I'm just generally
Okay.
doing it. He had left to work somewhere else, I forget what he worked somewhere else. And we had another gentleman in IT, what did he work, 20 hours, 30 hours, 4 days? 40? He did work 40 hours, and he was still here. I stopped the hiring of him and sat down and spent considerable amount of time in the IT department, okay? Trust me. No one respects IT. I joke about it because I don't personally like it or whatever, but I can tell you that in the city of Philadelphia, I was the first attorney. I used to write code. I got a collection division. I had 5,000 accounts. I was writing code for letterhead. IT is very, very, very important. At the same time, we're a small city. Does everybody understand what goes on here, okay? In this building runs the city. You got city manager in that corner, you got assistant city manager, you got a receptionist. You got 3 people over in the finance department. You got a clerk. Over here, you have 3.5 people, a building official, you got zoning officer, I guess, a code enforcement officer, you got an assistant to the building official and a part-time person kind of works the desk, so you got 3 people in water billing. That runs the city, okay? Those are the city, those are your greatest. Now you have demands for that. In addition to that, you have a fire department, 5? 6? How many people do you have? 2? 6. Just 6 people in the fire department. It runs itself. I've never even been over there except one time, so I loaded 10. Police department's 15? 14? 14 people, so you got 6, 14, that's 20, right? There's 20 people there. I've given you about 14 people that run the city, and the rest are in public works and the water department, and Pat runs both of those departments. That's where your major labor is. Your IT needs are divided among those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places, okay? What was going on here was no plan had been made for IT, and when you look at the money, it had grown over the years, and what was happening, there was proprietary software being developed here. We're paying someone a lot of money to develop programs specific to this city. I assure you, the city of Port Richey is not big enough for proprietary software. No reason to pay someone to develop software that I can't fix if he leaves. No matter how many times people call me up, Jim, you gotta hire my friend, you know what I mean? You can get into that. I don't wanna do that. I wanna get rid of it. I can buy off-the-shelf stuff for 1/10 the price. It might not have all the bells and whistles, but I don't need it. So I spent a lot of time researching someone outside to give me an opinion of what's going on here. I got 10 servers here. 10 virtual servers here. I brought in one of the biggest firms in Tampa come in here, and what I did is I waited until I had enough money from not paying the other guy that wasn't here and brought him in and paid them, and I should have their report a week from now or so. when I showed him, these are all the things we're doing, look, this is what they've been showing off, he had the same reaction I did. What are you, nuts? 10 servers, you need one. And then I found out Newport Richie uses them the same way I intended to, so that's where we're headed. The other gentleman in IT, he left, didn't like working for me, I guess, but in any event, that was a good thing. He was a nice gentleman, but it wasn't the path anyway, and we've made changes. Now, there's a few things, like taping this meeting. I gotta get somebody to do that. That's one of the people. There's 3 or 4 other things. We were training the people here to do those things. But then I've taken the IT, and we probably say way in excess of $100,000 in next year's budget for this. It works fine over in Newport Richie. It's gonna work fine here. The IT costs are now associated with each department. Okay, so if the police department needs a super IT, and they're gonna need some IT. They probably need more IT than anybody,
Yeah.
and their demands are placed upon them, especially with the county, right? And the dispatch coming up, they're gonna demand certain things. So where those costs are associated with, but we're just about 99% there. Go ahead, Doc.
11 virtual servers, do we need that?
I don't think we need any. I should have my report in about a week. I'm gonna give you each a copy. We paid a few bucks for it, we have phones back there activated, sitting in rooms and stuff like this. We've gone over that. We're counting phones, see how many services we have. From the head of one of the big services down in Tampa, says, Jim, you need one dedicated server, and maybe one for backup. We don't know yet. We're gonna work on that. Needing 10 is just people playing here. A department gone wild. So you're saving probably closer to $150,000 a year. You'll see no loss in service, you know what I mean? And I'm still working on that, and hopefully have that together before the new person gets here, but I'm extremely confident about that. That's just a management issue. Long-term debt, just so everybody knows that. Now that we're paying off a lot across from the fire station, this city is actually very good at long-term debt. One of the things the city doesn't have and should be proud of is you don't have any general revenue bonds for your budget. You run out of money one day, you can't just close the city. You go and borrow money to run general operations. The city's never done that, at least not to my knowledge. City Hall has a general revenue bond, about $500,000. Fire truck has a leased vehicle. When you lease something big over a period of time, it's just like owning, just like a mortgage on it. So that's about $158,900. That seems like a reasonable amount. No
Is that
reason.
what's left on the lease?
It's what's left on a lease. Yeah, on the vehicle, it's paid off in 2020. It's $158,000. Still due and owing on that.
Will that, Chief, be
Go ahead.
adequate to continue at 2020? Is that we gotta get a new one?
Go ahead, Tim.
You're looking at 4 years from now, if we can keep the truck on the road, it'll last another 4 years, yeah. But they generally last about 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And how old is it?
2008.
Yeah, we should get a while. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it costs us $31,779 a year. We have water revenue bonds. Just so everybody understands, in 2006, the long-term debt for revenue bonds, and some of this was used to expand the water department payment of the new wells over on Bandura, it was $5.9 million. As of last year, it's $2.6 million. That's tremendous. In other words, you now have water department that's probably worth $10 million, that if you needed to do something big and do some planning, you've got a lot of equity there. Not that you should go borrow against it, okay?
I
But
don't wanna
you've been
brag on you, but
retiring-
didn't you redo those bonds?
it's my
When are you
next-
gonna get to that?
Well, it's my next thing. What we did was, and I have to thank Erin for this more than anything, as I was going down my list of analyzing the city's finances, I walked in there, it's a little boring story, but I walked into Erin's office and I said, Erin, you got a few minutes? I want to do bonds. I want to see what they are. I want to see if we can refinance them. And Erin said to me, strange you should say that, Jim. I got this, normal routine mail from Florida League of Cities, whatever, and they were asking if we want to do that. So, make a long story short, we're refinancing the bonds, and it'll be on the already prepared ordinances. We got the documents. I didn't think anybody's going to have a problem passing the ordinance that I've already prepared. It'll save us, according to Mr. Schatzel, $400,000, but there's some expenses, but it'll be at least $335,000 savings after we paid for the refinancing of it. Now, obviously, it's not gonna save you $335,000 the first year. I haven't figured out each year what that's gonna have in bond payment, but you're gonna get a couple of $1,000 a year just, you'll pay them off earlier, but how much it's gonna be less each year. But you're gonna save on the $2.6 million we owe, $335,000, so it'll be down to $2.2 million, okay? So that refinancing, you'll see all the figures on that. A couple other things I wanted to explain going forward here, and I'm almost done, so in case you're getting really bored. Just so everybody understands where the city stands. In 2006, the real estate taxes, now you gotta remember, you have $10 million. How much do you raise in real estate taxes, right? That's that millage rate you're also concerned about. Of that $10 million for these three funds, in 2006, you raised $1,750,000. So the millage that you're so concerned about, which is very important, and the public's really concerned about that, is that it only raises you 20% of what you deal with. Okay, so if you can take care of the other 80%, you can lower that number if you want. In 2015, last year, that figure was 1.3 million. There's a big difference between 1.7 million and 1.3 million. So in the last 10 years, the tax base has dropped. You understand what I mean? So it's one of the reasons why it may have gotten a little difficult or why you've dipped into the CRA, but last year, you only raised $1.3 million. This year's figure is $1.4 million. So in 2006, 10 years ago, the millage, with the same millage that you were raising, was $300,000 higher. And you're going to say, well, that's not a big number in light of all these numbers. Well, it is, because 1 mil that you're charging now, we're doing 5.7 mils. Each mill raises $256,000.
256, is that 235?
$256,783.11. So it's kind of how you got in this, but it's building back up. And let me tell you how, in terms of the future here. Now, I have some good news in addition to all these other things. There's two major projects on the books, and one of them is Abigail Court. Everybody know what that is? That's the 58 senior units for senior citizens.
Jim's future residence.
I'm sorry?
And part of the speech, you probably.
I know that had something to do with how old I am, but I'm going to let it go. Oh, my future residents.
The senior citizen?
Well, we have to get 600.
I got her name on the site plan, I assure you that.
We have to get 600 to get back to where we were.
Say it again, Doc?
Well, we were 3,200 people, 3,208, 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, it's less people. Things change, maybe some businesses that close down on 19, things like that. Well, in any event, the good news is, and I always hate to do these things until they're real, but Abigail Court, which is the senior residence, not only filed their site plan, but this morning, I believe, and I've seen it, they filed the construction plans. They're in. I mean, it's like this. And so to excite you, so you get this. Couple other things I want to explain, I'm almost done. Abigail Court, I ran these numbers this morning. The impact fees, now remember, impact fees, fire and police get a portion of that, water gets a good portion of that, fire gets some of that. But you remember, if they're getting it, he gets it, that's less money he needs to spend on something else, so you're getting it. The impact fees, which, keep in mind, we make them pay this before they, get in there, is $432,000. It's a serious amount of money. It's like $1.5 million, okay? You only get it one time. But you're also going to get $94,000, because this is an $8.5 million project, in building fees, okay? So the total is $526,000. That's real money. Okay, that's real money going forward. With regard to, that's what you're going to get at first. Let me take it back on the $94,000. Over the total course of the building, we're going to get that in the beginning, it's $210,000 going to be paid in building fees over the course, because it's an $8.5 million project, okay? Now, I want to talk about that building fee thing in a second, which is very serious, which is something the city hasn't done, and I'm extremely concerned about it. The other project, the Cody River Townhouses, they haven't broke down yet. I think the PUD, they need to get 2 more months. They're either in or out. If they do, there'll be substantial impact fees there, and two things. The impact fees won't be as great, but if they break ground, it's 2016 now. If they break ground, you don't get your real estate taxes until they sell the units off. If they sell them during the year of 2017 in Florida, real estate taxes are billed after the fact. We're not going to see that money till 2018. Don't get too excited about the real estate there, but in terms of Abigail Court, that's an $8.5 million building. They will complete within a year, so if they complete within 2017, the following year, you'll begin to get real estate taxes, $8 million, but it'll be enough to buy a pretty expensive vehicle about each year going forward, a recurring money coming in, so that's serious money.
Grow government.
What's that?
We can grow more government.
I'm just saying,
I'm joking.
you can either grow government or give Pat a new vehicle, and I'm teasing Pat here, because he needs one, he actually needs one,
you
you're gonna
want
have
a
to, he's
number?
gonna come early, because he's got a real, he needs one, and I'm just picking on Pat, because I know him real well.
No, no spending.
Okay, one other thing here before I forget, and then I'll explain a couple things, and I'll be done, and I appreciate the time.
We appreciate you, I really appreciate it.
They passed a law in 2007, I believe, and which says that the building department is a closed accounting system, okay? Just to make it more complicated for you. What that means is, a lot of cities were going to a percentage. We charge a percentage of what you're gonna do as your fee. So 2.5% of an $8.5 million is a good way to go, okay, instead of $20. And we're allowed to do that, except every year, after you do that, you can never charge more and make a profit in there. Your building percentage must reflect what it costs you. Now, obviously, you never know in advance, right? So this year, in this cycle, right now, which is starting, okay, in the years past, we're probably breaking even. I didn't look at the numbers because I can't change it because it stayed at 2.7. Is that what it is? Anybody know? What is it? 2.4. And, but with these big numbers coming in next year, some of them may come in before the end of this fiscal year. We start taking in some big fees. If you don't change that reflective looking back, so when you get a lot of money, you can make money that year, but the next year, you gotta look back and make it adjust. You understand what I mean? So you may have to lower that to 1.5. And you may lose money that year, and then you could raise it up, but you can't just leave it the same and make a profit. We've been doing that. We haven't changed it in 7 years. Why? So I think the person sitting as the city manager didn't know you had to do that, okay? I happen to know it because we got sued when the Honda dealership went in. The problem was they tried to bring that lawsuit 1 year sooner, and I convinced them in a lawsuit that they didn't happen until the next year. We made it go away, but I know that's coming. Some people start paying $500,000. Smart people start thinking, okay, and they'll want some of that money back. That's the second thing that the new city manager, I'll sit down with him, but you know, I'm gonna tell you, these things need to be done. They haven't been done for a while. The water department, okay? I think I mentioned it already. The water department needs to be looked at. It's doing really good, and I commend Pat because he works 24/7. If nobody did ever thank them, I'm going to, because on July 4th, I was with Pat in the afternoon. If you can get anybody to work for you on July 4th to come out in the afternoon, Pat Stewart does that. And you're allowed to make a profit there. I think I said this before. Understand what I mean? There's things you can do there. I'm not going to go down a long road here, but you have thousands of, we have about 5,000. How many customers we got, Pat?
All total?
Yeah.
Just a little over, closing in on 8,000.
How many?
8,000.
And that includes the people in the parks as one, or each one's a customer, right?
Yeah.
We have thousands of people in parks, thousands, that don't pay a base fee, okay?
Don't pay a,
A base fee, just like you do for water. They have no incentive to cut back on
oh,
it.
I'm,
And we discussed this, the mayor and I. It's very complicated. I'm not going to bore you with it now. I've had Sal, who runs over here, some of the numbers, but to change that system to be environmentally sensitive, so people just don't run up their bill, and it's something you have to do and coordinate with the owners of these parks, not to hurt them, but done over time. And if we have to put in the pipes, and you may even want to borrow some money to do it, we'll create hundreds of thousands of dollars more in revenue each year. It's a project. And to explain it to the new city manager, he can explain it, whether you want to get someone to run a study on it or anything, but I've run the numbers. But things like this, water department's one of those things that needs a little bit of thought. It doesn't have a CIP, a capital improvement plan. You gotta remember that water department's out there. And Pat's, you know, you see the contingencies in his, he's got 150,000 for new lines in there and some other things. Well, you really can't plan in there until you know that these pipes over here are 38 years old, these pipes over here are 57 years old. When are we gonna replace them? What's their lifespan? Right now, we're just kind of doing this by the seat of our pants, and there may be a time when you wanna even borrow money so you can do some projects and make that thing make money. It can make money, but you can't expect Pat to do everything. He's gonna need help here. He needs money, he needs things like this, but that really needs to be looked at. But these, you know, mobile home parks that are there are just a lot of money to be made there. The last thing is, another thing, and I'm pointing these things out to you because I'm gonna point them out to the city manager and tell him I've told you this, but remember about 7 years ago, Doc, me and you, when you were on council, we went over to my office, and I was the city attorney. We brought, wasn't Duke Energy, whoever the energy company was at that point in time. We pay a generator out here. There's excess capacity. It was done for a reason. There were some time frames in the building of this building. But in any event, the contract is due 12 months from now. 12 months. 12 months.
So we need to find.
We pay $5,000, so they know. And they, $5,479. That's a lot of money. It's $65,760 a year, okay, for this generator out here. It's over capacity. We don't need it. Now, can we do
What was
it?
that yearly number?
$65,750. It's $5,479 a month. The contract's up August 2017, right? Aaron?
Do we own the generator at that point?
I haven't looked at that, but what, you know, I don't think so. I think it's leased, and I think we have to give it back.
Okay.
It's already
Well-
No,
renewed
we own
once.
that one.
For
What's that?
the for
What's
the
that?
council?
We own that.
We'll own it, whether we want to have it still.
Okay,
Okay.
well, for the new councilman, when Jim and I did this, just happened, Progress Energy had a $4 billion first quarter profit. And we said it front, you are not willing to change it, it's ridiculous. We can buy that generator that's there, new, for $23,000. We're paying $63,000 a year, $65,000 a year. And I will guarantee you, we can find a company that will service it.
Yeah, well, I guess that's my point. Do you want to service this? Do you want to keep it? I'm just telling you it's a big number, okay?
It's a
and
huge.
Service could be that much a year. I don't know, but it needs to be looked at now. Do you really want to own it? Do you want to do something different? You got to remember, we know nothing about that expensive piece of equipment out there. It's not like you're just going to call up Walmart to fix it or something.
Well, I mean, we
Someone
can
needs
do
to
it.
look at it and make those
Each of us
decisions.
look
Uh,
at it.
Without going through all the line items of this budget, you're gonna find that there's contingencies there in the water department for, you're gonna find other contingencies as opposed to capital spending there, all right? Penny for Pasco has a reserve of about 400,000 now, since we just bid into it for additional things. So if there's something you want to do, not that I'm trying to get you to spend money, but you can amend the budget at any time during the year, okay? So my last comment to you is, I've set this budget up so that when you start the next year, just merely paying off that other thing brings it down. You know, the bleeding has stopped. You don't need to raise any taxes or whatever. There's no fat here. Now, if you're gonna do anything else of a major way, that's not to be, you really don't wanna do those things and just say, well, cut 10% of this budget or whatever. That has ramifications. There's people that work here. You know what I mean? There's people with families. You wanna sit down and you wanna do something major, bring it up at the council meeting, you understand what I mean? And you decide you wanna do something major, you can amend this budget. You understand me? You can amend this. Not stopping you. Your hands aren't, you don't have to spend this money, okay? You can change anything you want going forward. You can always do that. So, right now, the bleeding stopped. You wanna make major changes, get your CRA back, it's up to you. but-
My guess is you got about 11% of it back.
What's that?
My guess is, and I was doing math, I had 11% we cut back Was that right?
Well, 11% there, but you're getting another $100,000 on a recurring expense there. You've also got a couple of hundred, yeah, you're probably about $500,000 in cuts in this budget, which is about 10 or 12%.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
probably a little more than that.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
A little off the budget, but not really. That whatever we did out at Harbor Isles with SNS and Augustine and their subs and their subs and their subs, in the contract I read, they were supposed to, about April 18th, have it finished, and every day after that had $1,000 a day charge to them. And I asked Public to do that, and
I guess they haven't finished the project, the retainage has not been paid. You're talking about Harbor Isles? Yeah, we're not done, they're still putting in the final whips.
well, as the
No, but
new
I'm saying,
city-
we're holding money on them, and at some
Okay.
point in time, why it took more than the 6 months or whatever can be looked at, but that issue needs to be addressed at the time they want the final money.
Well,
Yeah.
Jim, the chargeback will pay for more than their,
Well, I understand that. I understand that way. In other words, when they want the final payment, then we make a decision whether we have to pay it. We're holding 10% or 12%. We're holding a lot of money.
I personally wouldn't pay any more, subject to
Well,
that.
when it comes up, well, I'll take a look at the contract and let you know. But right now, how much is left, Pat?
3 fire hydrants and 2 more whips.
Yeah, why it's taking so long? He was already past 180 days when I came here, and they're working on it slowly. At some point in time, we have retainage. We'll
Do
look
they
at
not
it.
know what they signed?
I haven't
No.
asked them yet if they know. They're well aware that we've asked them 100 times to do it faster. You understand what I mean? But they're well aware of it in the sense. I've had both them in the office as well as the engineer.
How much do we owe back?
That I'm not sure of. I'd have to look.
I forget
Anyway,
what the retainage
I don't
is.
think we pay them anymore.
Well,
I hate saying this in public.
I haven't paid them. It'll come before you, but it'll be the final payment. You gotta remember, as you do that whole project, what, 150,000, 170 or whatever?
It was,
Retainage of 10 or 15%.
165.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think.
number like that, 171 or something like that.
And we took the higher bid.
Yeah,
Remember?
that's that whole thing. That's exactly right.
Another deal.
Yeah. And just so, let me explain how some of this goes, just how the people working at the city have done this. You wanted us just to really keep you here till midnight. You wanted staff to count the people that go off the ramp. Remember I said, we'll see if, remember the ramp?
Oh, yeah.
Right, well, we did that. I'm not gonna tell you the number. I
Tell me.
am, in a second.
I stay in
I tried to get a
reality.
private detective, that didn't work out, we went to the county, tried to get one of those meters there, I'm not, I want it done right, I'm not just gonna pick someone, pay him $300 to stand there, I want it done right, so the police chief was kind enough to give me a reserve officer, we had to pay him a few bucks, and so what we did was.
Well, unfortunately, the number, our studying happened after we don't have a place to park, the overflow.
In any event, didn't cost us anything, because it was gonna be a few bucks more than I'd wanna spend, but I want it done right. Council asked to know what the number is, I'm gonna tell you the number in a second, by the way. And Chief Fussell here, we called up, the project at the fire station was completed, but 2 things weren't done, the movement of some stops and 10 pieces of grass?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you put that in?
Not yet.
Yeah, just teasing them. And 10 pieces of grass around a telephone pole, and the stops needed to be moved. And so we were in the process of paying that off, and then the next stage of the process, which is Leo Kidd, we were owed about $700. Where'd Jocelyn go? I think it was $720. So I said, you know something? So we called them up and said, look, you're gonna have to come back here. You're not doing these 2 things, and it's ticking me off. You're waiting to stage, when that's where they bring their stuff, right? Leo Kidd. I said, well, I can make you stage right now, you know what I mean, blah, 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 blah. How about, Tim's people said, we'll move the darn stops. Took them about a half hour. They lift them up, move them, Pat can go out and get a couple of pieces aside. Take $700 off your bill. So that's the money we used to have a guy sit over there with a reserve officer. It didn't cost you anything. We actually made a couple of bucks. But that's what these people would do. And the same, it costs nothing. So we sat there, it's being typed up. What time did he sit there from? I know you want to know the number, Doc. 4 o'clock on Friday to 8 or 9 o'clock, and then the full day Saturday, the full day Sunday, each hour, how many cars went out, different anecdotal notes we asked them to make, talk to some people about, would you pay, you know, things like that, but the total for middle of the summer, hot weekend, 188.
188,
People launch boats.
okay, that's $1,800.
What's that?
That's $1,800.
$10.
A week minus the rest
Yeah,
of
I'm
it.
just telling you, that's the number. We'll give it to you, it'll all be typed up,
Right.
that's it, whatever you want to do with it.
I'm afraid that without overflow parking, we'll still have some number like that, because it'll always be full on the weekend, and just be slower paying us back, as opposed to the Weber Canal one that we discussed. And we'll discuss that in the council meeting, but.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, whatever you want to do with that information, we'll
I'm
send
just
it out.
thinking, you know, if we can bring in money, we can do a whole lot more. Maybe it's 1%, I don't know.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, it's the summertime, so I guess it'd be lower in January, or whatever, but at least you have information. But I guess my point was, you know, we wanted it done right, and, you know,
Got it done.
within 15 minutes, I had 2 people stuff it up to the plate, and we got it done for free and made $100.
God bless you, because I always thought we could do things ourselves with all these, without PRQs, and it's really wonderful.
Any questions? Did I bore you enough? Give you enough? Anything? Gonna be the same
Oh,
budget, no
Jim?
tax rate.
I did, this is just a thought. I know we have like 10,000 people that we serve water to, or maybe I'm way off. How many?
Just under that.
Okay.
Customers.
How many of those are, how many different parks is that?
I'd actually run the,
I understand the question.
he wants to know
How many
parks, how many
parks,
people in
like,
parks.
I don't know what they are, but it's, you know, like one trailer park or mobile home park and another.
Two,
Is there
3,000,
There's 3 major parks.
Three majors?
I would say each one has, you go from 500 to 150, so a couple of thousand maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
it's more than that. I have the figures. I've run it with.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
I
you
can send them to you.
know these, but I was just thinking maybe instead of blowing it all on us and them at the same time, we could do a 5-year, you go up this much.
Oh, yeah, that, it would.
And
Yeah,
we
you do
use
it-
your
you-
pipes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means.
Yeah, does everybody understand? In other words, look, we have a graduated rate for a master meter, and what happens is, once you shift over to this graduated rate, it doubles and triples as you go further up. Well, these meters, these master meters used to be there, it becomes problematic, it's not fair. You know, next thing you know, they went from a $5,000 bill to a $200,000 bill. But the bottom line is then, well, we're just not gonna guess at how much people, and we're gonna make you put all single meters. If not, you're gonna pay that $200,000. Now, you're gonna need to pass that on, because I got 2,000 people that aren't paying anything for water. It's included in their pad fee. Okay, and I want my $26 and my $31 base fee from each one of these people, and I want incentive for them not to use too much water. So if you got 600 people in there, I want 600 meters. If you don't wanna do it, I'll pay for the lines to there. Whether we take over theirs, this is a major project. You understand what I mean? $125, $200 for a meter, the plumber to put it in, things like this. But you gotta remember, that's 2,000 people paying you base rates. And notwithstanding, you know, just to have 2,000 people, that it makes no difference whether they leave the faucet on all day, it's just wrong. Notwithstanding the money we could make. Matter of fact, you can just Google up graduated rates for waters, how municipalities that own their own water departments just love this. But we've done nothing
So
about it.
there's, if they're gonna sue us, of course, because Steve Booth wants
Nobody
it
gonna sue us.
down.
Steve ain't gonna sue us. Steve, nobody's suing us.
So I'm saying, you know, you can throw the 200,000 on them immediately, or we can graduate it
Yeah,
out.
and,
so they-
yes, who pays for those pipes? We take their pipes up, they're all just probably crappy half-inch pipes leaking all the time, whether, you know, if you're gonna sit there and we're gonna do the pipes, you know, fine, we'll have to borrow money to do that, but, you know, you start talking numbers of 500 base fees, it's serious money, that's a major project. You can't expect Pat to sit down and do that one afternoon, it's a major project.
Why not? He's Superman. I just want to commend him.
You know. Questions? Comments? Outrage?
Great job.
Yep.
Great
All right,
job.
so unless I hear from
And to
somebody,
you.
or I get a lot of emails, this is what's gonna be on there in September. And,
We're gonna have another one, like, we'll have time to go through the, we won't have another one unless we go
Unless
through it.
somebody wants to, you in a committee,
Okay.
you wanna go every line item with you. If you wanna sit down with me and Aaron, go each one of these lines, that's okay, but it's probably
Maybe
about
Aaron.
$600,000 less, a number like that. You know, now any other changes you wanna make, you gotta sit down, think about it, and do it over the course of the year. I wanted to take that urgency out of it.
Excellent presentation, my
Yes.
friend.
All right?
Excellent.
Anybody?
Jim,
Yes.
in our dream to become independent from the CRA,
Say it again?
I said in our dream as we want to become weaned off of
Right, so you
CRA.
take all the other non-associated expenses.
As you were working with this budget, do you see, or did you get a feel for how we could move in that direction? Is it gonna be through grants? Are we ever gonna be able to reach that goal?
Yeah, it's a very legitimate question. Do I think you can? Yes. Presuming you don't want to raise taxes through the ceiling, keeping taxes the same. Presuming you don't want to find other sources of revenue, like some new tax on street lighting or something like that, okay? Whether you're going to take all those expenses off the CRA or have more money here that you have more, what difference does it make if you have an extra 200,000 here or extra 200,000 to buy a pier from your regular budget? But the only way you're gonna do that is to change, someone's gonna have to sit down and do some structural changes to see if you're gonna do anything major here in terms of personnel, okay? And that affects services. Okay, now I haven't been able to do that. I only work 20 hours a week, and I'm not the city manager. I didn't go over to Pat and see what all those people do, whether any changes could be made there. I didn't do it. Police and fire department, God bless them. I never had one problem or one complaint since the day I sat here. They just run, okay, and it's 24/7. Any other structural changes? That's kind of what I was hitting at. You're gonna need to do a structural change at some point in time, or get money from a different source, you know what I mean, such as grants or things like that. But in terms of fat, I don't think there's any more fat here. Maybe a little bit you could find. If I was here 40 hours a week, I'm kind of a miser myself. I might be able to find another 1 or 2%, you know. Tell them not to get that expensive coffee over there, or count your copies or something like that, you know. So, and I guess there's, just so I can finish, Councilman Rose, so, yeah, that's about it, right? Unless, or turn the water department into something that makes you $750,000 a year. And I think you can.
That can be done.
And that's almost takes you there. I think that's the number one way to do it. And that could be done. You need someone to run that water department, to help Pat at a higher level so he can do the things he's doing. You understand what I mean? And do that project. It's the project I was gonna tell the news, you wanna go there? Maybe I'm wrong. I've discussed this with people that know this field. Number two is, you can do structural things, like you wanna change a department, in some way, and those are major things. You have to sit down and decide, you know, I mean, what would be the impact of that, whether you want to do those kind of things. You can try to go around and get more grants, okay? That's getting harder and harder every day. 10 years ago, that was relatively somewhat easier than it is now. I mean, Jocelyn knows because she attends a lot of meetings on these things. Or reduce services. But there is no other way. You understand what I mean? There's all the little stuff they've done and we've done, and might not sound like a lot, but, you know, right now, you don't have to worry about, you need a couple of cars, maybe the chief needs a car, whatever. It's all in this budget. There's contingencies for stuff in this budget that were never there before. I've been taking you through them, but there's places to buy a couple $100,000 of cars. Well, if you don't spend it, you got that next year. You don't spend any money for any cars in here. I've already gotten rid of the 300,000 I took out, so I started with 700,000 left.
How much was that new white Tahoe?
Say it again?
How much was that, the new white Tahoe? Maybe I should ask.
New white what?
The new white Tahoe. It's got like
Got a new
every
white
light. I don't think you get another light on.
Tahoe. Shows you how little I pay attention. What new white Tahoe? Who's got a new white Tahoe?
Do you have any ideas?
I don't even know what a Tahoe is.
Yeah, we have a Ford Explorer that's white, and I
Is that the one with
believe,
all the lights that, Looks like you're in Manhattan.
It's pretty much a standard light package for police cars right now, but I think it's 25,000 is about the rate we're paying.
Could you buy an extra one of those? I'll pay you. Okay. I think I had another question, Jim, but I'm not sure. We're gonna set this by ordinance in September.
Yes, you have to set an ordinance, I'm gonna bring this budget in. You could say, no, I wanna change something between, at that day, and then if you don't change too many things, it goes to a second reading, but short answer is yes.
When we hire a city manager,
Uh-huh.
I think he has to be, co-city managers, or however the hell you wanna say it. He's gotta be with you to go through this budget.
Say it again.
If he is here before September, I think there has to be at least a 30-day overlay so you can tell him that speech.
Yes, I look forward to doing that, Dale.
I
I
mean,
care about the city.
but-
Do I sit down with them? I'll sit down on my own goddamn time and do that. Yeah, I've got a whole list of things. Jocelyn has a whole folder on new city manager folder, things I want to talk to him about. God help that city manager. I'm going to give him my opinion.
That's
We'll
what
be
I'm
involved.
saying.
Yeah, we'll go over that, all joking aside. That, of course. Oh,
Okay,
as a
but,
matter of
I mean,
fact,
do we
I'm
need
going
to-
to tell him the things I just said in answer to Councilman Rhodes' comment. You understand? I mean, go talk to the council people, bring it up here, see what you want to do. Maybe you know more than I know or whatever, but this is the tenor of this right now. And they might want to do things, maybe they don't, but you decide. Yeah, so, yes, Doc, I mean, I have intention.
Okay, I mean, and if
Oh,
you
you
guys.
have to. I mean, not only that, I can tell you this, the best part about this is the first day I sat down there, Jocelyn made a list of all the things that are going on in the city. The only difference I recommend for the new city manager, I'm working 20 hours a week, right, instead of 40.
That's a lie.
Yeah, it probably is, but what needs to be, the next step down for the new city manager, yeah, you get up to speed, and the first thing you do is you spend a week over in Pat's department. You want to sit Public Works. They start a half hour earlier, you spend the whole week there. I don't know if Pat needs 6 more guys or 3 less. I don't know. I don't know. You understand? I mean, until you go out and do that, I don't know. Maybe he needs 12 more people. I don't know, but someone's got to look at that. You got to live in that. You just can't go and say, this is how much I want, and then you do that over at the water department, and you do that everywhere. And you sit down with people and look at it. You got to remember, you got nothing for nothing. You cut something, and, something may happen. I don't know, but it needs to be studied.
But
Yeah, it needs to be
I'm just saying that we hire somebody from Georgia, and he comes in here, and he's gonna have to be with you for a month, so maybe we have to pay you a month extra and him whatever.
Generally, what happens, the way the city attorney is that you sit there and you get paid to come to the city council meetings, board of adjustment, things like that. And generally, every other day, there's an issue, and, I just assume come over. Joe used to sit here once a week for a full day. My office, I'm working a half day here doing a mediation, so stop by and what are the issues, but it's not a problem doing that. You know what I mean? And Jocelyn will do that. I was up to speed in 2 days here. You understand what I mean? She tell me every issue that's going on. Now, the next step is, well, where do you want to go? Do you understand? I mean, you want all that CRA money back, that $800,000? That's a big number, right? You're getting 337. I guess if you did just what you did this year, and these extra monies coming in, you could probably get that up to 500,000 or 600,000 next year. I think that's where you're going to be. As long as you're comfortable keeping it at 1.2 million, I think that's a good number. Okay, that's what Mr. Schatzel thinks. I'm good with that. You're probably up to there, but to take it further, you got to make a change.
Well, I assume we will be doing that. And Joss, how much money do we have for the waterfront park? The grant on the waterfront park?
Oh, the FERDAP, $100,000.
And how many places does it have to go?
It has to go various parts of the park. So part of it has to be for passive recreation, part of it has to be for the playground, part for the bathroom, part for the kayak launch.
Do you speak with Mr. Lee occasionally about the recreational park?
I haven't actually spoken to him in a while.
Well, Frank, I think you should talk to her and see what we have. I mean, he's like an extra employee for the park. And free.
I believe the state's gonna come to one of our council meetings in the next few months to present a large check for the FERDAP
Okay, thank
financing.
you.
What are the services that you would suggest cutting?
Excuse me? Are you asking me or are you asking you?
I'm asking you.
What services? I don't know. That's my point. That's my whole point. I don't know. I don't know if you should cut any services or want to cut any services. What services, if you were going to determine that you're spending money and you can do it better or more efficiently, it needs to be studied. If you want to cut services, I don't have any recommendation on whether
You don't think there's
That's up to
anything?
you five to determine what service you want to cut. I have no recommendation on any of those, because number one, I haven't studied it, and number two, that's not my place.
I'll tell you one thing, if you're from Pasco County and I was in a fairly exclusive place, they do not pick up our palm fronds or any damn other thing. And if you drive around Pasco, you look at the roads, we have nice roads. They have, Orange Grove Drive is like what you get, and hopefully we do have enough money in Pasco County to, in the transportation fees to offer to help Pasco County do Orange Grove Drive. And you heard the argument with our people in Sand Pebble accessing Walnut and asking if we could spend half of, and the transportation money can only go to roads, correct?
Say that again, sir?
The transportation fee money that can only go to roads, or?
Yes. Transportation fund has about $350,000 in it, right? And it must be used for roads, right?
Okay, so, and,
You're actually gonna get some more money put into it after we get passed. We'll get
right.
$350,000.
I only assume we would have to split it with, the county if they would accept that.
I
to-
don't know whether the county, the details of whether the county
Right.
would do that or not.
But Pat,
Presuming they would.
you told me somebody else owns part of Orange Grove Drive besides the,
Let me take over.
oh, please, you were gone. That was your bailiwick.
Okay. Pasco County owns a very large portion of it. The portion from Walnut to the east is privately owned. However, that section is in pretty good shape. So it's the Pasco County portion that needs to be paved. I guess I can talk about this now since you brought it up. I had a long discussion with Mike Garrett, who is in charge of roads and bridges. He is willing to give the city that road. I have, or I should say, I got a very definite answer from him that if we're waiting for Pasco County to pave that road, we'll be waiting a long time. However, he offered the city that road for free if we want it. He offered it to us before, but it was never brought to this council, which I was quite upset about. Somebody made that decision for us. And I think since the majority of the traffic that goes down that road is for our people, I think it is something I would, and had asked to have put on the last agenda, and I'm sorry, I was sick, I couldn't get here. But I would like that put back on the agenda.
It's already on the agenda. We discussed
To
that
see what
today.
council thinks of that, because I think we can pave that road myself. And I think that is a smart move. It's a road that basically serves our people. There's, Mike, he told me, I don't have enough people on that road to, and they don't like to do roads without doing assessments. So he said, with the few people we have on that road, I don't see us ever paving it. But he says, you're more than welcome to it. He said, if you want it, we will put it before the commissioners. And I said, let me go to council, see what they want to do. And so I was excited about that, because that road has been something we've wanted to pave for the longest time. And those people, they've been driving over that terrible road for so many years, tearing up their cars. I think we could do it. I think we could do it fairly reasonably, and I think it needs to be done myself, but that's for council to decide.
Yeah, exactly. I get, matter of fact, Pat and I were chat, it's on the agenda, by the way, we already did that, right?
Pat is.
Just so you, the other issues, so you can have a fruitful discussion Tuesday. It's probably more than repaving that road, right, Pat? Just guessing, but, you know.
Yeah, we actually did some core samples out there back in the day, and you're looking at taking at least 2 foot of material out of there, bringing it back in. It might be more than that. From what I can
It
remember,
may
it
need
was 2
base.
foot.
In other words, when you see a road that's got a lot of patches, because the base is going bad.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe-
Well,
So
if-
whatever the number is, but.
Yeah, I mean, if we could replace limestone with concrete, it would probably hold a lot better than, you
It
know,
might.
this is the base they use all over the state, and it never seems to last, so.
Pat, is that a lot of, it's not a lot of upkeep for a road once you've redone it, right? Upkeep, is it maintenance? That's not a lot, is it?
It all depends on the road. For instance, the industrial park, right on the other side of Leo Kidd, we're constantly out there. It needs to be repaved. You could do an overlay on that road, and that would relieve me for 5 years, not even touching it, you know what I'm saying?
Leo Kidd going, you go left and you go to Ridge?
Going
South?
East.
Oh, east.
I'm sorry, I
Leo
can't
Kidd,
remember the
it
name of the
runs-
street right now. Clark Moody, that's it. Clark Moody. We have dozens and dozens of businesses on both sides of Clark
Oh,
Moody.
we should do that, yeah.
And that's
Jim,
gotta be
that's
the
what you were
worst
talking
street in
about, all
the
the
city.
industrial area.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Were you referring to Clark Moody over by Catches? That's Clark
No.
Moody. Oh, Leo Kidd.
The other side of Leo Kidd.
Oh.
We'll take a ride tomorrow.
Call me, I would like to go. The other side of that story, though, Terry, is the people on Candlelight that access Walnut from the rear. And did that gentleman say he would, I went and talked to people on Walnut. And they're, you know, they've been begging to have the road paved forever, and they did pay their assessments. Our guys on this side that want to access it are willing to share that assessment and have whatever the county wants for an apron and a drainage port.
Just a.
I'm sorry, did you already-
information, for both of you, we had some conversation with county officials today, pretty far up, and their position regarding Walnut Street is probably not going to change. You understand? I mean, they're dug in their heels, at least from.
Who did you talk to today?
We spoke to the county administrator,
To the which?
the administrator.
Michelle Baker.
Michelle
Yeah.
Baker.
Justin had some conversation with her, you know, just bring it, we try to fix these things if we
Well-
can. And so right now, it doesn't look like that's going to change.
Jack
Maybe it's just-
Mariano and I were out there.
It
and-
doesn't, you know, that,
That
you
may
gotta
be-
remember, that's the county, the commissioners are her boss. So right now, that's where they are, so it's gonna, I guess, the
I would
answer
have
is
to
it's gonna take
pres-
political pressure to change that.
Well,
That makes sense?
If we were to say, we're willing to take over the road and pave it, and we would like also you to realize these people have 20, 30 years have accessed Walnut.
They're very aware of all of that.
Well, but the guys you talked to said no. The guys above them can
That's where
say
it's
yes.
up to, right? Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, that's where it's, the county's saying no, now it's gonna take, you know, county commissioners to change that.
And I don't see a basis for her no.
It's
We probably
also
shouldn't
election
tell her that
time.
way.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
Staff, you did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Picked the right guy there for the money and the attorney. So with that,
Motion to adjourn?
all in favor?
Aye.